Good evening. This is now week 7. We are at the halfway point of Social Work 636. And this week, the primary focus is on identification of social problems and needs assessment. So let's go to the introduction for this week. And the objective for this week and the overview are as follows. Week 7 examines the needs statement in proposals. Building on the concept of need discussed previously, the session covers the steps in developing an argument demonstrating need. The components of the statement of need are examined and the relative benefits of different methods and types of evidence are examined. So the objectives are to describe the purposes and components of need statements, to articulate the relative value of different types of evidence, and to write a statement of need. So first, let's look at the learning resources for this week. And they are as follows. There are 3 chapters from the Designing and Managing Programs and Effectiveness-Based Approach text. They are Chapter 3, Understanding Social Problems, Chapter 4, Needs Assessment, Theoretical Considerations, and Chapter 5, Needs Assessment, Approaches to Measurement. There are 2 additional outside readings from the text and 2 videos that are from the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and they both describe the process of assessing community needs. The activity for this week is as follows, and it's around identifying an unmet need. So each of you is going to be assigned a partner. Please excuse the fact that I have not made that assignment already. I will be doing so this evening. So your only work with that partner is the person that you will respond to in your response. So this week's discussion asks you to reflect on a social work organization or a social work setting within an organization and to identify unmet needs. As your readings for this week discussed, organizations too often focus on what they perceive as their own needs rather than on the needs of those they serve. For example, a domestic violence shelter administrator might write, "We need more beds in our facility." However, if all people affected by domestic violence have places to sleep, or if they cannot get to your shelter no matter how many beds there are, getting more beds is not going to help. In fact, more beds is actually a potential solution to an unmet client need, the need for safe, accessible space to sleep at night. So revisit the organization you wrote about in week 1 unless you've encountered obstacles in talking about that organization, and try to focus on the needs of those you serve as you answer the following in your initial post. In this case, you are being asked to use headings. So first, identify the following aspects of the organization: its name, size, age, location, and whether it's nonprofit or for-profit. Briefly and in complete sentences, answer the following. What is the culture climate of the organization? How do you feel when you walk in? How about the organization or climate contributes? What about the organization or climate contributes to this feeling? What do you notice about how staff relate to one another and to clients? Are they collegial, hostile, welcoming, suspicious, etc.? Who are the organization's clients, consumers? To the best of your knowledge, what are their primary needs? What needs is the agency meeting well, and what needs are unaddressed or unmet? So given the evidence you have reflected upon, discussed above, please identify a minimum of 3 unmet needs faced by the organization's clients and provide a 1 or 2 sentence description of each unmet need. You are going to respond to your partner's initial post and create a response that answers both of the following questions. Which of the 3 unmet needs identified by your partner do you think could be best addressed through a program change or through the introduction of a new program? And what ideas for a program change or new program do you have? Provide at least 2 ideas. So your initial post is due Tuesday. Your response is due by Sunday. Now let's go over some of the concepts in a PowerPoint that I put together from the readings that addresses social problems and needs assessment. So social problems. Social programs are justified to address identifiable social problems which are translated into the needs of a larger client population. Problems often are stated in terms of solutions. Problem analysis should be seen as the first of a series of related planning process activities. This analysis should focus on understanding the problem versus, again, being solution focused. And focus should be on looking at the issue with fresh eyes and having a lack of assumptions. Social problem analysis continued. Initial focus should be on the facts or conditions. Those conditions become problems when they are determined to be negative, harmful, or pathological. A factor to consider is who is judging the condition as problematic and why. A framework for problem analysis, some concerns or questions for consideration. What is the nature of the situation or condition? We need to collect facts and impressions from as many sources as possible. How are the terms being defined? We need to seek a common understanding for all terms. So if multiple people are looking at this problem, have we reached consensus on definitions? What are the characteristics of those experiencing the condition? What is the scale and distribution of the condition, and what social values are being threatened because the condition exists? Framework for problem analysis continued. How widely is the condition recognized? Again, who is defining the problem? What is the source of the problem, and are there ethnic and gender considerations? Next, let's talk about theoretical framework. 2 theorists were mentioned. I'm sure I'm going to get this name wrong, but Ponce-Owen. The view is that society and community has a primary responsibility to meet basic survival needs of members. Needs exist because some member does not have necessary goods and services while others do. We also have Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and in this instance, need is discussed in terms of hierarchy. Basic needs are at the lower level, and we move to upper levels when those basic needs are met. Needs defined. We have normative need. Standards or norms based on custom, authority, or general consensus against which quantity, or quality of a condition is measured. Perceived need, what do people think or feel the needs to be? Expressed need, is it met or unmet? And relative need, measured as the gap between the level of services existing in one community and those that exist in a similar community. Issues in conducting needs assessment. Current methods arrive at estimates versus precise measurement, and there is always the concern about data availability. So what are some of the ways to measure needs? Excuse me. First, we can look at normative need, and we can use primary and secondary data. and that's data collected by others to describe similar communities. Sometimes that data is overlooked. We can use surveys from secondary data. A concern is that they may not be specific to the area concerned, and the definition of the condition used in the data collection could be of concern. We can use resource inventories, and that is we attempt to identify all the agencies that offer services to the identified population. So we look at service utilization, and the issue is standardization and definition agreement. So what are some of the ways to measure need? We can look at express need and again, data utilization. And it's dependent upon data availability, and lack of data on unmet need or prevalence can be a concern. Ways to measure perceived need: we can use a social survey to identify the respondent's perception of need and determine knowledge of existing services. Some of the concerns are time and cost, and getting return on surveys is also a concern. We can do public forums, which is a democratic process, but it may or may not be representative of the population that we're trying to gather data on. We can use more defined focus groups, which are specifically invited members that hopefully both represent and or are made up of people aware of the needs of the population that we are concerned about. And lastly, there are, again, additional ways to measure need. One is using a spatial analysis, and that is use of social indicators to classify geographical areas into typologies. Underlying assumption of indicator construction is that not one variable alone can define the complexity of social phenomena. And then we can use factor analysis, which is a statistical technique to take a large number of variables and reduce them to a smaller number of indicators. And so if you're not real conscious of or have the knowledge of a lot of the statistical data, this is a good time to consult with someone who may have a better understanding of the use of statistical measurements to measure need and can add to your need analysis. And the references for this are the chapters in Kettner, Maroney, and Martin. With that, if you have any questions for this week, please let me know as soon as possible. The name of your partner will be going out later this evening. If you do not receive it, please let me know, because it's important that you have your assigned partner to respond to. And everyone, please be mindful that your partner can't respond unless you post timely. So I implore you to get in your initial post in a timely fashion. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful week. Again, this is the midpoint of the semester, and I look forward to reading your posts for week 7.